Hello and welcome. I am Ruben Banerjee, the editor of Outlook magazine, and we are coming to you from the Outlook headquarters in Delhi. It's another week and another issue, and here is the latest issue of Outlook. As always, we take great pride in the magazine that we put out every week, and this again is a very power-packed issue. The cover is Reclaiming the Neighborhood. Now, we decided to do this because Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he took over in 2014, he had announced that neighborhood first was his top priority in terms of policy. And there is a definitive new spec for this cover because end of this month, Bangladesh, one of our India's strongest allies, will be holding general elections, and Sheikh Hasina is seeking another shot at Prime Ministership. Now, a lot would depend on these election results, on India-Bangladesh ties, how it shapes up. Joining me in today's conversation are Pranay Sharma, our political editor, and Lakshmi Debroy, senior reporter with us. And we'll be talking about a whole range of stories that we have in this particular issue. Pranay, you anchored this Reclaiming the Neighborhood cover for us. Why should readers be interested in this story?
For a number of reasons, because a lot of dramatic developments have been taking place in the neighborhood over the past few months. We've been writing about them. Some we had also put on the cover, like the Pakistan election that happened in August this year, and later also developments in Maldives and in Bhutan, where all these countries have gone for a change. They have a new set of leaders who weren't there earlier. So, and the kind of impact it has on India. So, I think, there is a connect between what has been happening in the neighborhood and what India, or if you are looking at them from by sitting at India, it would interest you. Because,
So essentially what we have done is, because of Bangladesh elections, we decided to do a kind of a stock taking. India's ties with its neighbors, and generally the takeaway is that India's stock has risen in the region, in South Asia, right?
See, initially there were some hiccups after he made that announcement which you mentioned. There were ways of doing it, meaning we've had problems with Nepal, and some others also had questions about it. But gradually, I think we've got it back once again.
So essentially we are back in business.
We are back in business. We did
Maldives,
some cost
Sri
correction.
Lanka.
Yes. And everywhere and even in Pakistan, as we saw during the Kartarpur corridor, they're reaching out to India. They want some kind of a negotiation to start. So by and large, every single nation in South Asia is trying to give India the importance, the primacy of India in this region, and they want to engage, start a dialogue, and try and see that how both bilaterally and as the region as a whole, collectively, they can move forward.
And India's relations with its neighbors is very important because primarily a lot depends on the prosperity of all these countries, on the kind of ties that we enjoy.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? And Bangladesh elections, as I said, will be held on December 30th, right? And it's going to be a high voltage election, and it will have definitive ramifications on what kind of relationship India enjoys with the next government in Bangladesh. And we have a very interesting article from one of the very well respected journalists of Dhaka, Syed Badrul Hasan. And so what is generally your sense? Sheikh Hasina is going to come back?
I think that she will still manage to, perhaps, but it's always difficult to make predictions about elections. Though the Oikojot and
the opposition,
they are putting up a stiff fight, a tough fight, and it depends on the last day.
But change is somewhat is the kind of flavor of the season.
Absolutely,
right?
but
you have a new leader in Maldives.
Everywhere, if you look at
in
it,
Pakistan, in Sri Lanka,
in Bhutan.
Yeah.
So our neighborhood, they have gone for a change. Bangladesh can just follow them, or Sheikh Hasina can buck the trend. You know?
We have an interesting column from the former Pakistani High Commissioner to India, Ashraf Jahangir Qazi, talking about India-Pakistan ties.
That's right.
And a very informative interview with our own former Foreign Secretary, Ranjan Mathai. Right? What does Mathai say about Modi's foreign policy vis-a-vis our neighbors?
See, one thing there is no denying that Modi in almost 30 years or more has been the only Prime Minister who has visited and has put a lot of stress in engaging with our immediate neighbors. And as I said, that he is the only one in so many, over 3 decades, to have found the time to visit each one of them. Maldives was one which he couldn't for a number of reasons, but finally he also went there, you know, even for a day during the inaugural ceremony of President Soli. So that is one part which everybody recognizes, acknowledges. There had been some setback, that is also something which you can't ignore. But I think now they have got the right rhythm, and there is a situation from where they can really take off and move forward. You know, because unless our neighborhood is at peace with itself, unless they also find that India as the biggest country is also trying to look after our prosperity, our progress, I think we cannot move. Our own development, you know, economic development, our social development is absolutely linked to that. So we will have to take them along.
This is the opening spread which Pranay anchored, and very, as you can see, very interesting graphic. Would you like to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah,
it's a kind of a status report vis-a-vis each of our neighbors, right?
That's right.
And it's all looking up.
They've given, we've tried to give bullet points to show what were the issues, what are the issues, you know, some of them are still relevant, so which are relevant, and how they might play out. But now we have a situation from where India is back in the game, India is right at the center, everyone is reaching out. They are acknowledging the fact that this is the biggest country with which we all need good relations. How that works out, we will have to see.
So Prime Minister Narendra Modi's foreign policy vis-a-vis our neighbors has definitely been a bright spot for him, right?
So far, yes, definitely. This is what we will have to say. Though there were questions, I mean, that's what I'm saying, that again and again, there were questions at one time, especially vis-a-vis Nepal, and that is one thing which we saw, where there was a blockade and they suffered, you know. I think we realize that a hard policy does not really work, and many times you cannot just get involved in internal dynamics, political dynamics of our neighbors. So the best thing is for them to play out, as we did in Sri Lanka. I think that was a very wise, smart thing to do.
So the key takeaways are that India has shown maturity and sagacity.
Absolutely.
In terms of dealing with its neighbors.
Yes.
And
Sure.
the ties are much stronger now, and we can look towards forward to a prolonged period of calm and peace and prosperity.
You know, as the year comes to an end, and as also Mr. Modi gets into the last phase of his 5-year term, we can look at it and say that yes, there were a number of mistakes, but there are also a number of positives from which you can learn and take forward and take, I mean, it can be hopeful that now we are getting into a phase from where we can really take it forward.
In Outlook, we always take pride in the fact that we do balanced, impartial reporting, and we do give credit wherever credit is due. And it seems that in terms of foreign policy and in our ties with neighbors, Indian government has definitely done well. And as always, this issue of Outlook has many other stories. And one of the other big stories that we have done is on a follow-up on Me Too. As you know, people were called out 2 months ago, and we were in the middle of a Me Too campaign, and Lakshmi, who has done this story. So what has happened is, powerful people were called out, implicated by their junior colleagues, and now, as expected, there is a blowback, right? So what is the story?
The cost that we are paying for this Me Too movement, the women especially, what cost are we paying for it? The backlash, and we are being there being a kind of, not people are saying it, but there's been a downscaling, no women are going to be employed later on into this organization. What we have done is done. Now we are going to just kind of scale down the number of women employees.
Has it already happened? At an
No,
informal
nothing,
level?
not at an informal level, not at a formal level. Definitely at an informal level, it's happening. And another thing is, it's a very balanced story. I've tried taking both sides of it. That there are not all bosses who are bad. So there's a lot of mentoring happening, but now bosses are also male bosses are getting very careful. Like, we'll keep the door open when we're doing any conversation or giving any feedback, making another woman sit with me and things like that. So it's both-sided, it's balanced, but then there are ways that we should not stop at this. It's one of the journalists mentioned, I think Ghazala mentioned that it's too early to say that it's over, the movement is over, and we are still hopeful that it's going to be good, and it's going to be good from both the angles, not just, and it's time that we come up with something that looks at both the sides, not just the women's version, just because we are the weaker sex, but also the men's version.
So what Lakshmi tells me is, and having read the story, what is happening in some places, some workplaces at least, is male bosses are now more circumspect, and they are hesitant to mentor women.
Yeah.
Not necessarily they are bad guys, but
Yeah.
they are hesitant because they do not know what can blow up as a Me Too. So they are taking precautions, right? And the women employees are losing out that way, right, Lakshmi?
Yes, they're losing out badly. And another thing is that women employees now should be also cautious at how much. There are some stories like the women. I'm talking
Wild
women.
allegations.
Yeah, wrong allegations. See, just that the relationship that is gone you had with your male colleague or your male boss, relationship gone wrong in the organization, your relationship gone wrong cannot be a Me Too movement. You had a good relationship which
While
gone
doing
wrong.
this story, Lakshmi spoke to a whole range of people, women and everyone else in the corporate and also in the media space.
Bollywood and
Bollywood and everywhere.
Tollywood mainly.
Tollywood. And what has been happening now is, after this onslaught of Me Too allegations, women employees, their male colleagues are hesitant in socially interacting with them.
Socially interacting, like after team lunch, team meetings together after the issue, may say for the media, for instance, the media, after the newspaper goes to bed or the magazine goes to bed, you go out for a drink together, everything is
All
stopped.
that is not happening.
The socializing bit has stopped.
What about jokes? Because when you are in a group of, where it's dominated by men, there were invariably jokes which were sexist jokes.
Sexist
things like
jokes.
that. You see them to be a little more sensitive now.
Yeah, people are getting a little bit more cautious. Like, men are getting cautious. At the same time, women are also, playing safe. That, yeah, we will not get too much into it. We don't know what's playing in the mind of that person. Like today, if anybody makes a joke at me, I will think twice. Is it that it's just a joke, or is he hinting at or trying to hit at or something?
Yeah.
What is
So
it?
both sides are cautious now.
Yeah, both sides.
But is the Me Too movement in India over?
No, it's not over. It's just the beginning. See, people are being there are organizations, there are publications which have taken a stand, and see, any procedure takes a little bit of time. Like any legal procedure takes a time. Some have been suspended, some have been sent on leave, some have been transferred. But then that is not like many have to say that just transferring one person, one editor to another, from one place to another place is not the story. The story is like, how do you, going there, he'll get new territory, new people to
So essentially it's still early days for this Me Too movement to settle down.
Yes,
And really
but
Changing
I
the
think
attitude, right?
change of the attitude, but at the same time I would say media has played a very important role, because it was in media people who brought out these things, and initially it was just at the Bollywood, Hollywood level, but now with this, media has taken a big action and the Me Too movement gained momentum. Definitely Tanushree Datta started it, but then it gained its true movement started after Me Too.
So that's a very interesting story and very informative, and what's happening in our country and in our workplaces particularly. And we have a whole range of other stories. There is this wonderful story. We all know Vijay Mallya is on the run, and then he was also known to have horses, expensive race horses. What happened to the horses? So he has a stud farm close to Bangalore. So our reporter went down to that start form, and it seems the horses are staring at a very bleak future, because with the owner on the run and money drying up, the horses are possibly, if they had a chance, they would have bolted by now. But we haven't left them with much of a chance. And then there is another story, a fantastic story. We all know of English Barmy Army, like these trenchant fans who follow the cricket team and the football team all around the globe, watching their favorite players play. We have a similar thing happening even in India. Like there is this Carnatic singer, and he has these die-hard loyalists.
Sanjay Subramaniam.
Sanjay Subramaniam, and wherever he performs, across India and across the country, his fans follow him. A great story. I never read this story before. I wasn't even aware. And look at this, a stunning picture spread. We are talking about Kamatipura, a very infamous red light district in the middle of Bombay. Now, because it's prime property, rightly or wrongly, I'm not being judgmental here. Now, the red light area is being gobbled up by land sharks, and high rises are coming up. So there is a very good kind of a photo essay on this. And we are also, as always, we have stayed very topical. We are a news magazine after all, and we are taking a look after this recent election reverses last week in the three Hindi states of Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh for the BJP. We have also taken a hard look at what possibly could the options be for Modi and Amit Shah to turn the tide. And his options are pretty challenging. One could be that he has to rationalize the GST. Then the government, the India government focuses on Ayushman Bharat. That could be a game changer. Then agrarian crisis. They have to look at and offer some swaps to the farmers who are in distress. So we have taken a very hard, long, hard look at the possible options before Narendra Modi, before the 2019 elections. So pick up this issue of Outlook. As always, great issue, and do give us your feedback. See you next week again. Thank you.